You got the run sheet. Excellent. Okay. Everyone ready to go? Okay, very good. Well, it must be a good day in Queensland when you can get all the colours of the rainbow in one place. And it is an exciting day for Queensland, and it's an exciting day for fire and emergency services, because today the government announces more resources, more personnel, better focused services and better alignment of services for fire and emergency services right across the state. This follows the independent report of KPMG, which was chaired by a steering committee of 5 senior public servants, making recommendations about how we can position fire and emergency services in the future to not only respond to changing community expectations around service delivery, but also the challenges that go along with intensification of weather patterns and climate change. And we all know that they are having impacts on our community and on our environment. So KPMG made a number of recommendations, and one of those recommendations was the establishment of a dedicated fire service. And the government's accepting that recommendation. That will see the Fire and Rescue Service and the Rural Fire Service make up that department, with the Rural Fire Service being its own separate entity within that department with its own budget and own structure. This is an important way that we can build capacity for the future around our fire services. But the KPMG report also recommended the better alignment of services with a host department better suited to those service delivery needs. So we're also announcing that the State Emergency Service, as its own entity, will be hosted by the Police Service, and Marine Rescue Queensland, our new volunteer Marine Rescue Service, will also be hosted by the Queensland Police Service. But the government's not just doing this restructure and this movement, we're also providing additional resourcing. And the amount's about $400 million over 4 years, an extra 500 frontline staff. It'll see a boost for the SES, an almost tripling of their baseline budget. It'll see more firefighters for the Fire and Rescue Service, 143 extra firefighters. It'll see more staff at the Rural Fire Service, over 100 extra staff, as well as also dedicated funding for capital and equipment and resources. It'll also see the money locked in to secure the future of Marine Rescue Queensland, with the budget eventually growing to $27 million a year. All of these things will build better capacity for fire and emergency services in Queensland, better support for our volunteers, staff and officers. And it's the least we can do. Our volunteers, staff and officers from right across fire and emergency services are exceptional Queenslanders. They give of their time, they make sacrifices of their own to serve us, to protect us, to be there for us in our time of need. So we pay tribute to them. A lot of them are behind me today, and a lot of them are excited about the future for fire and emergency services here in Queensland. This is about better services for Queenslanders to protect our great lifestyle, and I'm very proud that this government is backing in our emergency services with this additional resourcing and these additional personnel and this new structure, which will place our emergency services in a right position, a good position, a solid position for the future. Now, we've got a number of people who are going to say a few things, and I'll hand over to them. Greg?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Could I just acknowledge all of our staff and volunteers, our frontline workers, our administrative and our corporate people in Queensland Fire and Emergency Services who do an amazing job in keeping Queenslanders safe. What we've seen over recent years is some significant events, whether it's bushfire, storm, flood, and QFIS has risen to the challenge every time. But what we know from our recent experience and what we know from our changing climate is that we need to continue to invest to ensure that we're ready for whatever challenges we're faced with in the future. And that's why today I welcome the reforms announced by the Minister, the resourcing uplift to better support our frontline services to make sure that we can continue to provide those services to the community into the future. Commissioner Carroll and I will work to ensure that we have a smooth transition of those services that are moving across to Queensland Police, and I particularly look forward to working with the Fire and Rescue Service and the Rural Fire Service to make sure that we build a contemporary and well-resourced fire services so that we can meet all of the challenges and keep Queenslanders safe well into the future.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I too want to acknowledge all of fire and emergency services, all the police that keep us safe day in, day out. Without them, it truly would be a different world that we live in, and they certainly do an absolutely tremendous job in keeping their communities safe. I ask that you obviously understand the review. Many of us were involved in that. It really is an alignment, a better alignment about where all of these areas sit. And I'll give you for an example, the Marine Rescue, which will be moved over to police, has a natural alignment with our water police. They do extensive work with our water police, day in, day out. And we've just been having some conversations about how immediately we'll adjust, the communications between us, how better we will be able to buy our assets into the future. All of that work, we're looking forward to. There will be better alignment with the disaster management arrangements as well. A little bit of tweaking throughout those arrangements will better align the entire system. So as Greg alluded to, Commissioner Leach, that we will work closely together now over the extended period of time to make sure that we do this carefully, properly, and that we attend to any of the issues that may be raised with us. But certainly the uplift in resources is incredibly important. So coming into the QPS as well as SCS and Fire and Rescue, the resources that will be coming and the funding is also incredibly important to make sure that we have a smooth transition into the future. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Good morning. What we've seen today is an acknowledgement of the services of the Queensland Fire and Emergency Service being transitioned to a more appropriate place, and I'd like to thank the government and particularly the Minister and the Commissioners that came to this position. And it certainly will be in the best interests of Queenslanders, and it will help firefighters from my membership, which is the fire and rescue side of town, to be able to respond better, faster, and with more equipment and more staff. And it's a good day for firefighters in Queensland. Thank you.
Good morning. The Queensland State Emergency Service Volunteers Association strongly supports the announcement today by the Queensland State Government in relation to the strengthening of SES resources throughout Queensland and certainly well into the future when it comes to disaster management support and the response to the community more generally. Our SES volunteers have been looking forward to the SES review and the findings and in particular the recommendations that we know will make Queensland SES and our volunteers and the community a better place moving forward.
Thank you all. What a great day it is for the rural fire volunteers, and I'll go as far as calling it Independence Day, where we've gained a great deal of independence, and I thank the Minister for his courage and his efforts in getting this all up and going, and it's been a great day. Thank you.
Good morning all. What a great day for the Rural Fire Service. The Minister's announcement today has delivered to us a significant increase in staffing right across the state, our frontline services, to get out there and support our volunteers so they can get out there and support their local community. It also includes some significant funding to continue some great programs that they've recently introduced at the Minister's request in terms of building more fire appliances for our volunteers and to increase their level of training. This is a great day for the Rural Fire Service. Thank you.
Graham Kingston, Marine Rescue. Certainly this announcement provides a lot of certainty for progressing the implementation of the new Marine Rescue Service in Queensland. And of course the funding announcement is extremely important to providing increased sustainability for our volunteers. And we're very much looking forward to not having to devote so much time to actually fundraising rather than supporting our communities.
Any questions? Marine Rescue, QFES review first? Yeah. Is that review Yes, it's already public. I'll be tabling it in Parliament today, but it's already public on the QFES website. Yeah, well, look, we've got to do legislation change, and for people who have been around Parliament a little while, they know that legislation change takes some time, and we've also got to build up the staffing numbers. You can't just create 500 on day one, but we're looking at a transition period of maybe 18 months to have the whole process complete. But there will be some aspects that will be able to be transitioned earlier.
Volunteering, I guess, volunteer numbers across the country have dropped. The SES struggles particularly. What is the government doing to ensure
Yeah.
volunteers?
Yeah, that's one of the motivations around the additional resourcing here. So what we'll see with the staffing uplift for the SES and Rural Fire Service particularly is more dedicated people in the regions and in the areas around the state to support not only volunteer recruitment but also volunteer onboarding and then volunteer ongoing support. So multiple opportunities there for us to grow the ranks of those volunteer services, not only by attracting more people but holding those people longer. I'll give you an example. Some of the resourcing boosts that we announced in the state budget only 6 months ago will mean that we'll be able to reopen the area office of the SES in Gladstone. That will provide us with a base to recruit more people from Gladstone and also support the volunteers in that region. So this funding boost, this resourcing boost, will be distributed right across the state and obviously support our activities right across the state. Oh, Commissioner, any more for me?
I suppose you said you wanted 500 new staff. Do you have an idea at this stage, the breakdown of where you want it to be dispersed across?
Yeah. So, no, we do have a bit of a breakdown. We will do a reform implementation task force, which will be actually led by State Disaster Coordinator Steve Golczewski, because he has a great awareness of all emergency services across the state, as you'd expect in his role. So we'll do the final scoping, but we're looking at, staffing-wise, approximately a 60% increase in staffing for the SES, more than 100 extra staff for the Rural Fire Service, around 30 staff for Marine Rescue Queensland and an extra 143 firefighters. So there's a significant uplift there. And of course, they'll be rolled out over a couple of years, but ultimately it'll be a great uplift for fire and emergency services right across the state. I'll get that, Commissioner.
So just to what the Minister was saying, Deputy Commissioner Steve Golczewski will head up the implementation task force. Deputy Golczewski, as you know, has extraordinary standing not just across agencies but across the community and all of government. So a lot of experience. He will work with all agencies in the implementation, and certainly we are now in our disaster season, so there won't be any dramatic changes over the next few months. And I think that is incredibly important, that the community has real confidence that this will be done well. Yeah, so I was made aware at the same time the Minister was, and in beginning of June this year. I understand there were briefings that did not quite make it to my office, and whilst I'll leave most of that evidence to play out, I have addressed that issue. My staff, from what their briefings are to me, that they genuinely believed that they could resolve this issue, and certainly over time that was not the case. So, and this, Lydia, this is just exactly what I'm telling you. I honestly believe, from what they've told to me, that they believe they could address the issue and it would be worked out at that officer level, and it wasn't. But that briefing note, in essence, should have made its way to my office. They are serious issues. They should have been resolved very, very differently. But from my staff perspective, they were always of the belief that they could address these issues with Queensland Health, and they could address them quite urgently and quickly. However, it didn't appear to have worked that way. As I reiterated, genuinely at the officer level, they believed within the QPS that they could resolve these issues, and when they thought they could, they weren't, and they genuinely believe that they could again. Very little at that stage, and this is an issue that has been addressed within the organisation. that things were being worked out between both agencies. Not at that stage. Thank you. I think everyone should be treated with respect and that everyone should be investigated as urgently as possible. That's what we're here for. And that matter is at an inquest, so I really can't say much more than that. I beg your pardon, sorry.
Will police, I know it's at an inquest, but will police review the case of Palaszczuk to show she was deemed
So what I believe the matter is being reviewed, but I will get back to you on that.
Will Queensland Police commit to, I guess, formalising a database that actively records the indigenous status of female victims in homicide cases, so we can start to get a better like data which will create those.
I've got to check whether that's already started, so I'll get back to you with the response on that. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. In relation to the DV inquiry, how are you ensuring that whistleblowers are protected, they don't face reprisals? We've heard from a lot of whistleblowers that they're
Sorry, can you move on?
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, it's so loud.
okay. In relation to the DV inquiry, how are you ensuring that whistleblowers are protected, they don't face any reprisals?
Oh, look, that's so incredibly important. Whistleblowers will be protected. Whistleblowers should be protected. You know, we get a lot of our, good work done as a result of whistleblowers, so that is definitely the case. They will be protected. To make sure the systems and the processes are in place. There are good systems and processes in place, and to give them the support that they need and confidence that they will be protected as well.
Will the systems be changing, or will we still have the same systems as we have right now?
So we need to, if the systems need to change, they can change. I can have them reviewed, but certainly whistleblowers are incredibly important. And if there needs to be any changes in the systems, there will be changes, but I will give them confidence that they will be protected.
Yeah, well, I said this on Sunday when one of your colleagues asked the question that whenever something's in the media, I seek information from the agency, and that information's provided. Well, that was information regarding the stories that a particular publication was making, and the information that I received didn't raise any concerns. Well, it didn't raise any concerns. Look, I think otherwise, we've got to be respectful to the Commission of Inquiry. The Commission of Inquiry is doing its work. Let's leave it now to the Commissioner to make his conclusions. Well, and I have answered questions truthfully. I just told you. It was information requested in relation to the stories, and that information that came back didn't raise any concerns. It didn't raise any concerns. It didn't raise any concerns. I've already said this publicly. I was very disappointed that it was. I'm not saying that. It didn't raise any concerns. It didn't raise any concerns, and I'm very disappointed that the matter wasn't briefed up to me earlier. Oh, I can't tell you that. That's information that just comes from the department.
Provide an idea for the layperson at home what kind of services that are currently in your wheelhouse
Yes.
are going to go to you. Yes, we're talking swift rescue.
Sure. So currently Queensland Fire and Emergency Services consists of the Fire and Rescue Service, the Rural Fire Service, the State Emergency Service. We administer the state's disaster management arrangements, and we also provide grant funding to Surf Lifesaving Queensland, Royal Lifesaving Society, and we support the PCYC cadet program. So under the reforms the government's announced today, the new Queensland Fire Department will include the Fire and Rescue Service and the Rural Fire Service. So that'll be all of the services that we provide to attend structure fires, swift water rescues, road crash rescue, bushfire management, and the like.
What does that leave you?
that leaves us a lot to do. We've got significant challenges. Queensland's growing. We're seeing an increase in construction rates all of the time. We need to make sure we've got a well-trained and well-equipped fire and rescue service to respond to structure fires, hazmat incidents, road crash rescue. We're also seeing an increased risk of bushfire across Queensland as a result of climate change. So therefore we need a very responsive and well-resourced rural fire service to deal with all of those challenges. 40,000 people came to Queensland to call Queensland home. We need to protect those people. That's why we need a good network of urban and rural fire stations right across Queensland. Yes, so we will become the Queensland Fire Department, and that will include the Fire and Rescue Service and the Rural Fire Service.
Can I ask the police commissioner one question? Yesterday we saw the sentencing in relation to Angus Monkey. The family complained out in the court that they were confronted by people saying your family needs to watch out for speaking about crime. Do you find that sort of behaviour outside of court a bit concerning, given what has been obviously heard, the sentences given inside court?
Look, first of all, I just want, my heart goes out to that family. I cannot imagine what they are going through. I believe the public should speak freely, about the opinions they have. And I saw that yesterday afternoon, and I saw, the reaction of the family, and rightfully so. It's up to the public to have their opinion, and they should be able to say what they want. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.